let me be blunt with you. You're going to have candidates out there. They're going to do a phenomenal job of selling themselves harder than actually selling a product. They're going to come to you and say things like, well, I used to be number one at my last company. You know what? We closed about $100,000 to $200,000 every single month when I was there. Or things like, oh, I hit about 150 to 180% of quota. And if you're not careful, you'll hire them, only to find out 60 days later that they haven't closed a single deal. So today, I'm going to be showing you exactly how to spot these so-called fake top producers, so you don't have to worry about wasting a hire, wasting a territory, or wasting a pipeline on them. Now, for those that don't know me, my name is Jayce Grayye. I'm the founder of Jayce Grayye Consulting and Recruiting. And in the last 1.5 years, my team and I have placed over 1,000 sales professionals into high growth startups and scale ups. If you're right now needing to hire one or more reps every single month, we could definitely help you. So with that being said, we've interviewed over thousands of so-called top performers. And I'll be frank with you, some of them actually were legit, but others, well, at that point, they did a better job of just selling themselves other than actually selling. If anything, they kind of felt like they were allergic to selling. But here's the truth. Spotting a fake is not just one of these like gut feelings, okay? It's all about a system. But before we get into that and how to spot them, you need to understand why it's so important, because the cost of missing this is way higher than most leaders tend to think. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to the stakes, most of you don't understand that 74% of sales hires miss quota. That's right. And about every bad hire can cost you an additional about $100,000 in lost deals, wasted ramp time, and demoralizing the team. So what I'm trying to say is that a bad hire aren't just expensive. They're going to either drain your time, pipeline, and culture. And the damage usually starts the moment you mistake these fake top producers for the real deal. So you're probably asking yourself, okay, so why does this keep happening if you're going through the motion and you think you're finding those who are so-called real producers, right? Because what you see in the interview is just the tip of the iceberg, okay? And the truth is really hiding underneath. Here's the problem. Fake top producers are going to look amazing on paper. They'll say all the right words, they'll have the impressive titles, and even a few of them will even have so-called President's Club on their either photos or LinkedIn or awards. Now, here's the thing. They could speak the sales language amazingly well and probably do a great job of selling you in those 30 minutes because they're just whispering in your ear everything you want to hear. But the moment they hit the floor, you're going to realize they can't generate any pipeline, no deals are being closed, and you're going to start hearing a trial of excuses, and they're going to start blaming the leads, the pricing, the marketing conditions. And here's the dangerous part in all of this, okay? Because they're good at selling themselves. They can fool everyone. And sometimes they can even fool the hiring managers. And you don't realize it's a bad hire until it's too late. After they've burned through countless leads, wasted ramp time, you're at a point where it's literally poisoning the team morale. So most of these, what we call fakes, fall into what I like to call 3 categories, or let's call it 3 predictable types. Once you know them, you could spot them in minutes. And here are the 3 predictable types of fake producers. The first one on that list, let's just go right into it. It's what we call the inheritor. It's straightforward. They crush quota because they inherited a stacked book of business. Either the deals were already in motion before they got there, and for that reason, they didn't do much of any hunting. They just signed the paperwork. That's number one. The second one is what we like to call the assisted closer. They only close because they had either assistance with either, let's say, a sales engineer, a sales manager, inbound marketing. They had an SDR who handed everything to the AEs, right? We've all been there. They were handed ready to buy leads on a silver platter, okay? So when they have to hunt, right, if you ask them, what did they do? Like, walk me through your day. What were you actually generating you by yourself? You'll start noticing it's a lot more like crickets, okay? Number 3, we have the inflator. This one's pretty funny, in my opinion. They just inflate numbers, leave out the context, or just use team metrics instead of individual results. They say we a lot because I wouldn't sound as impressive. Now, here's what you need to know about these 3 types. Let's talk about how they give themselves away. and often without even realizing. And I'm going to share with you how to spot that, okay, in the interview. The first thing you have to identify when it comes to this red flag notion is you have to be able to catch everything they're saying. And it starts first with vague numbers. If they can't tell me what quotas they were hitting, if they can't tell me the daily, weekly, and monthly KPIs or the sales cycle or the average deal size, that's an immediate red flag. The second one on that list is that they just take credit for team wins. They're not necessarily specific. They leave out the details of their specific roles. And for that reason, it becomes, again, a team morale, not an individual performance. Number 3 is they blame market or the company. They never take any ownership of any results. Number 4 is they can't explain the sales process. They just say things like, yeah, we just build relationships. A typical day on my end would be you make the phone call, would get them in the appointment, go from there and close them out, do a little bit of negotiating. This is like half-assed response. It's extremely vague at this point. They can't explain it. Immediately hard pass. And last but not least, 5, avoids the mock pitch or any sort of role play. If they don't want to show you what it's like live selling, at that point, it's an immediate red flag. Now, it's okay if there's like 1 or 2, but my rule of thumb is that if you automatically see 3 of these red flags, that's what I like to call a strikeout, automatically disqualify them and move on. I promise you're not going to lose sleep over losing someone who just sounds amazing on paper and amazing in these so-called interviews. So these, again, are the red flags. And you're at a point where, like, okay, how do you make sure you consistently catch all these so-called fakes before they get in? Well, here's the framework that I'm going to be sharing with you. And this is what I love to call the fake buster framework. Okay. Our 5-step process here is pretty straightforward. First one on that list is we're going to be talking about number drilling. Okay. So we're going to be jumping into things like, tell me about your quota. What was your percentage? What did you hit? Then you're going to be jumping into how many times did you actually hit it in the time that you were there. While we're talking about that, let's talk about key performance indicators. Tell me, what was productivity? For those that don't know, productivity means like what it was considered a productive day working for an organization. What was the bare minimum? So hypothetically, let's just say that productivity or the daily KPI was, you had to make a minimum of 3 appointments, 4 hours of talk time, and about 75 calls. Well, if you weren't hitting those 3 things, or let's say 2 out of those 3 things, it was automatically not hitting KPIs. So we want to dive into that. What was then their average deal size? What was their average sales cycle? What did they generate the organization? Things like this are key indicators that you want to be able to address on these interviews so you can point out, okay, does this person know what they're doing? Do they know the process from A to Z? And you'll be able to start noticing these things. Second is, let's dive into the timeline drill. Timeline drill, it's very simple and very straightforward. Step by step, just walk me through your last closed deal. If you can even walk me through that last closed deal, you're going to be in a position where you're probably not going to be wanting to hire this person. Third, process tests. Okay. This right here is just explain the pipeline stages and just the KPIs. 4, live mock call role play. Okay. Sell me on the spot. Well, if it's selling me a pen, selling me a couch, selling me this mic, selling me a phone, sell me on the spot. Let me hear exactly where you stand. And for me personally, once you get all these details out, you're going to find out real quick if this person is more than competent or has any sort of background training. And it's going to really reflect on that scenario. Number 5, core references, or should I say peer references. This is when they just put peers as their references and instead of just the managers. An immediate red flag with all of this, in my opinion. When it comes down to it, listen, we've done this over thousands of times, and we do this every single week. Let me show you exactly how this would work in real life, because I'm going to share with you a real case where we were able to identify a fake top producer for one of our clients, and we were able to catch it before they actually pulled the trigger on it. And I can tell you right now, if they would have pulled the trigger on this candidate, they would have lost a lot of money. We're talking about millions. This company's deal sizes are average about 40 to about 50 grand per deal. And honestly, the sales cycles take about sometimes 2 to 3 months. So I'll share with you a quick case study that we had with one of our clients. They're fast growing in a software company, and they came to us after they found their dream salesperson, or so they thought. On paper, this candidate was flawless. We're talking about they had all the right numbers on there. Number 1 at their previous company, closed multiple six-figure deals. They had glowing references from their former manager, you name it. And during the interview process, the client was extremely impressed at a point where they said, you know what, we're going to go ahead and submit them an offer. However, before they did, again, we're the recruitment leg, we're their partner. When it comes to this, they said, hey guys, Jayce, we want you just to talk with this person and see exactly if you feel there's an alignment with this candidate. And we said, sure, why not? Let's just conduct a 30, 45-minute interview and let's just go from there. When we stepped in, we went right into it. We went with the numbers drills, went with the timeline drill, we went with the live role play. The call took about an hour and a half, if I'm being frank with you. But when we started asking this information, they started getting very hesitated about the numbers. They really were able to provide us specifics. And then they definitely had a hard time or struggle just walking us through how they closed their last deal. And then last but not least, we had about a 5-10 minute role play and they just froze. They couldn't handle any sort of objections. They just tried booking the appointment, just going straight into the urgency. The moment I hear all these things, all of a sudden I point out, okay, these are 3 major red flags. And I told the client, I said, look, I personally think that if you were to hire someone like this, I think that you'll probably cost you a lot of money. But what I do believe is that you should keep looking for someone else who could maybe be in a more in alignment. So again, they stepped us in. We brought in a rep that we thought was a good fit. Without a shadow of a doubt, we ended up placing a rep for them. 6 months later, that same rep that we placed for them has been hitting 120% of quota, built a strong pipeline within 3 weeks, and closed more revenue in the first 60 days than the previous candidates that they had in their past quarter. So when you want to go ahead and compare these so-called top producers that are almost hired, based on their skills, based on their gaps. So you have to take in consideration that if, let's say, candidate A would have been hired, because of the massive amount of gaps in this person's skills, we're talking about like not being able to identify these things, there is a great possibility that candidate would have generated 6 months from now $0 for the organization, and chances are he would have been looking for a new job altogether. So right now you're like, okay, how do you know when you found like the real deal, right? Well, the real top performers, I'll share with you exactly all the traits that they come with for you to be able to identify that. Now, here's the checklist that I like to go through with every single one of our clients, and it's very straightforward. The first one on the list is knowing your numbers cold. If somebody were asking me that question when I'm sleeping, I could answer it in my sleep. The second one is they own it. Even if they mess up, they explain everything. They understand where they messed up on. That is taking ownership. You want someone who takes ownership. 3, have a repeatable process. You tend to find that the ones who are really top of their game have a process. It's like, hey, they don't steer away from it. They know exactly how long it takes. They know exactly the questions they have to ask. It's straightforward. 4, adapt in real time. They're quick on their toes. They're sharp. If they hear something that it doesn't align, they know how to go ahead and maneuver it in a different direction. And then last but not least, number 5 is they have a balance of I's and we's naturally. If they can't take out all these boxes, I'm saying if they can't take all these boxes, they're not worth hiring. As a leader, your role is to protect your team and your pipeline from anyone who doesn't fit this mold. So remember, as a sales leader, you're not just filling the seats. You're the gatekeeper for your company's revenue, reputation, and culture. Every rep that you allow onto the team either moves the needle or drains it. And here's the hard truth. And one bad hire doesn't just fail to produce. They can literally slow down the good ones, eat up management bandwidth, and literally poison the team morale. This isn't about hiring faster or interviewing more people. The more interviews won't fix a broken process. The only thing that works is having a repeatable, proven system that filters out the fakes before they ever, and I mean ever, touch your pipeline. When you protect that gate, you're going to be protecting your revenue forecasting, your sales culture, your team momentum, and your own credibility as a leader. Because every yes that you give in hiring is at the end of the day a bet. And the wrong bet can cost you 6 figures or more. And that's exactly what we built for our clients here at Jayce Consulting and Recruiting. It's a system that makes sure that only people getting through your gates are the ones who perform from month one. We don't just fill in the seats. We're going to build a bulletproof recruiting system that's going to filter out all the pretenders and deliver the closers who can ramp fast, sell hard, and hit quota from month one. So if you're right now trying to hire more than one sales rep a month or simply can't afford another bad hire, here's your next steps. Click the link below, fill out the form, book a call with my team, and in 30 minutes, we're going to map out exactly how to protect your pipeline and start stacking your roster with the kind of salespeople who are going to move that revenue. Don't wait until you lose another bad quarter to a bad hire. Let's get the next one right.